discussed in the last session about Scrum, as sprint is the conceptual soul of Scrum. So also flow is the spirit of Kanban. So when it comes to Kanban, what matters is you are trying to actually focus on the flow, trying to make sure that you are breaking the whole set of tasks, the stories, requirements, things to do, activities, whatever it is, the work itself, any kind of work could actually be broken down further and further in terms of the flow. So for example, here, if you look at the left side, you won't have a clue where is it that we are now at the moment, how much of work is left to do, what should be done, and what is still to be done. We don't have any clue. What is the status? We don't have any clue about it. It's just a laundry list of items there. Whereas if you look on the right side, it still is the same, to be honest. It's not really, you're trying to refine it. It's like a backlog that you have got in Scrum. We discussed how product backlog could actually kind of be refined, groomed, and then prioritized and shortlisted. But still, you have got a Moscow prioritization, for example, the must have, should have, could have, and will not have this time. We have had a look at that in detail last time. It still is not giving you the information about where we are, what is the work still to be done, how much of it is left, and how much time do we have. Nothing has actually been conveyed with this kind of refinement of the list. So what do we need there is basically, what is lacking here is the flow. Where's the flow? There's no flow. There's no idea of, in terms of where we're starting, where do we need to go, and how are we progressing? Simple thing. So that, as we discussed earlier in some of the examples before, if I want to start from London to Brighton in a car, I've got a clear destination, and I've got a starting point, which is London, and I've got to go to Brighton, which is a destination, and I'm going by car, and I've got this kind of, okay, I've got to have at least, for example, 100 miles journey. So within the 100-mile journey, it might take roughly 1.5 hours. And this is what I need to do. This is where I can actually take the pit stops for breakfast, lunch, whatever, 1 or 2 pit stops in between. So there is a plan there. There is some kind of workflow. So you can actually kind of see when you put on your sat nav, the satellite navigation, or TomTom, or any of these Garmin, it clearly says how much of distance have you completed and how much more is still pending, how many 50 miles more to reach to the destination. So there is a clear progression in terms of your journey, where you started and where you're reaching, and then how you're going. What is the speed that you're going, and how much more time that you're going to take, which is completely lacking in this kind of a structuring of work that you're seeing now. But with Kanban, you can try and overcome that. So basically what you try and do is you to actually take only the most important, most urgent things, which is what is the must and shoulds, and then you try and put that into the sprint backlog. So essentially all the things that are below the red line will actually be dropped off because they're not urgent, they're not important. So obviously those are, from the business priority point of view, they get dropped. And then the rest of the items, for example, it could be the must and should. So you potentially have about 20 items that you pick up from this list, and that goes into the what we call as a plan. But then it's not really the backlog yet, because the team would then have a look, they will do the estimation, and then they would come up with some kind of an indication in terms of, okay, this, out of this 20 items, technical feasibility point of view, we can try and do 12 of these. So the 12 items would go into the sprint backlog, and now you're going to track the sprint backlog, right? So here you can actually get to see the work item is what here, for example. This is work item, could be a requirement, it could be a user story, it can be a defect, it can be a change request or improvement. So anything, it can be a technical task that has to be done by a database administrator, irrespective of the type of the task. Everything in a sprint, in a agile development lifecycle, could be tracked and could be put in a flow. And that's the beauty of Kanban board. So you actually say that, okay, these are all the ideas, these are all the things that need to be done. And then these are some of the proposals. And then you say, okay, out of these, we have got some of them. We've got about 10, 15, 12. And then we have got, out of those, some of them are in the development, some of them in acceptance testing, some of them are complete, they're done, they're being deployed as we talk. And then there is that sense of, okay, that means that this is a work in progress for this one, for this current sprint. These are the items that we need to focus. What is happening there? We're trying to limit the work in progress. So you're not bothered about all the 100 other things that have come into your way, that have got into your backlog. What is important is that 12 items that you need to finish by the end of the sprint, the time box. So see here, Kanban is not actually prescribing a time box. Kanban doesn't have a time box, but then the beauty of Kanban, that when it is working with some other agile methodology like Scrum, is that it actually beautifully fits in there, because you can structure the work, you can see the flow, you can see where it is, what kind of work is involved, what is still to be done, how much of it is done. In fact, you can go to the next extent where you can actually see which team members have done what. So it's not just about one person doing this. If there are dependencies, we can easily track that. So I'm going to show you that in this one. So the whole idea here is that we are trying to understand the flow of work. That's all, in a sense, in the past, yesterday's and today's session, the big takeaway for you, the one takeaway is that Kanban is about flow of work. That's about it, right? How we achieve that could be done through different means, different artifacts, different kind of techniques and tools. But then in a sense, this is just the sole purpose of why you would use Kanban in any other agile methodology like Scrum, SAFe, or DSDM. And the card, as we discussed yesterday, it's the card that is the literal definition of what is Kanban in Japanese. So you must use the cards or a ticket. You call it as tickets, cards, post-it notes, index cards, whatever it is. Depending on your comfort level, you can use whatever it is, or even just a plain little box. Anything that actually gives you an idea or an indication that this is an item, work item. This is a task. This is a technical task. This is a task. This is a story. This is a defect. This is a change request, whatever it could be. End of the day, you're putting that, and then you're actually trying to move that into different columns and seeing the flow where it is. And that would be Kanban. And the whole idea of this is that you're trying to make sure that the flow is smooth, and it's not really one ticket going super fast and the other one going very slow. It's not about that. You're trying to actually even out and make sure that there is cadence, as what we call technically, and in agile terms, cadence is very smooth across all the different columns and different phases. So that is what is important. And you'll come to know if there is a card, for example, if there is one card here which says provide access, and that has been there for, like, it was there yesterday, is there today, it's not moving anyway, it's there tomorrow, and for the last 4 days it has been there. And you know that there is actually, it's a problem, because it's an issue. It's not moving in the rate that it is supposed to. In which case you try and pick it up, understand what's the problem, why is access not being still provided to a particular developer. Then you try and understand how we can facilitate to make sure that blockage, that kind of impediment, is removed. So you approach the person and ask them what's happening, why did you not get the access? And they say, no, I've raised a ticket, but I still haven't gotten anything. I haven't heard from the IT infrastructure team. Then you approach the ITS team, you sort out, and then finally, after sending a few mails of whatever it takes, you make sure that the access is provided, and then that blockage is removed and goes to the next stage into the development. So you see that's the work is clearly seen where it is happening, and it also is clearly seen where it is not happening. That's the beauty of this Kanban flow board. So you can actually see and take action. So sometimes it could be as simple as we discussed. It could be the physical storyboard. This is the whiteboard, and then we can use these are the kind of post-its we can use. I have used index cards as well, size of a normal postcard, but white. And then sometimes they have got the lines. We've used that. We actually stuck the whole around the room. We've got this brown and colored. So I think it's called a border. So we actually use the border paper across all the room. We ran it around, and then on the border paper, we actually struck these columns like this, and then we stuck the index cards with tape, cello tape, so it actually sticks there. It's a very useful tool. Just like this Post-it, sometimes they've got a problem of the glue not being strong enough. so they follow for the next day or two. So I would suggest you can use the, the index cards, and then they're bigger than actually postcards, so you can actually clearly see what they have. Sometimes if you want to write, so we used to actually use Sharpies, and then with Sharpie pen, if you write on this index cards, it's really clearly seen, very visible, and then they stick there without falling off the next day. So you can actually see the progress over a period of a good few weeks and months. So that's another way of actually maintaining a physical Kanban board. And coming back to how you would define the Kanban board, as we saw yesterday, it could be as simple as defining the to-do, the doing, and then done. So I don't need to explain, it's self-explanatory. So to-do is still not started yet, and then perhaps there's a delay, and then you can actually try and, if there is some things that are still there in to-do for about 4 or 5 days, or even the 7th day after the sprint start, then you know that there is a problem. Ask why you have nobody has picked up this item. This has been there for the last 7 days. This should have actually been worked out. And then comes the problem of what is happening. Why is it not moving in the way it should be? So you can unearth the problems. You can understand where the problems are. You can try and take some kind of clues why the problem is there. What is causing the blockage? What is causing the delay? And then try and remove that. So that is the to-do. Very, very important to understand why the delay is, and then you can try and address that root cause. And then doing, or in progress, is basically once you start working on it, then obviously you can understand that it is in progress. But a task could be in progress for a good few hours to few days to few weeks to few months, right? So just because somebody is working on a task doesn't mean it is being done. It is actually okay. It can be done in the next second. It can be done next day, or it can take another few weeks to complete it. So it is again important to actually kind of keep your eyes and ears open to make sure that you question why a particular item is in the doing column for longer than it should be, right? That's again something to question. So these are the things that you would try and ask, that you try and investigate yourself. It's not as a manager or a boss, but it's basically the team. We would try and update each other during the execution of a particular project following the agile development methodologies. It could be Scrum, it could be SAFe, DSDM, doesn't matter. But this actually gives you that kind of an instrumentation dashboard where you can actually get to see everything. A simple example is your car dashboard. It actually gives you the speed with which you're going, the fuel that you have in your car, and perhaps the odometer, the distance that you traveled. All of these dimensions, all of these different across the different dimensions of speed, time, how much time you have started the journey, what's the trip meter. So you have got pretty much everything on the dashboard to give you the sense of how you're going, right? So the same way, a Kanban board is pretty much like a dashboard for your project, for the product development initiative. It gives you at various points of time pretty much a real-time assessment of where we are. It is not something that is like post-mortem, that is 100 days old or a 2 years old thing. It is actually reflecting the current situation as on that particular moment. So it's very, very real-time, very reliable, and you can try and follow that to understand why some things are not being done that they should have been. So very, very, very powerful again. So in terms of the software development, we've seen that it could be actually tracked with respect to each of these different things. So you've got one card which has got different other tasks or subtasks. You can actually run it through the multiple columns. You can see that within design, you can actually see doing still or be done. So you can have multiple columns within each of the main columns. So you can try and, there's no specific do or don't with respect to how you would manage the work and the flow and the columns and rows. So it's totally up to you. You've got the flexibility. You can try and pick up and define the way that you would like it to be in terms of managing the requirements, managing the context within which it is being done. So it can be done for development projects, for the process improvement, for the maintenance kind of projects, for process re-engineering. Anything in the world is actually a good candidate for implementing Kanban that way. And then how you really do is basically, as we discussed, it could be with respect to the backlog. It could be the to do is the product backlog. And then the dev could be the sprint backlog. The first item in the sprint backlog is the dev. Then you can actually have test, release done, or deployed on live. So it's totally up to you. The team would decide whether they want like 5 columns or they want 50 columns, right? And then within each of these, you can actually decide whether it's done by Sarah, Dave, or is it done by somebody else. You can actually kind of use color post-its. All yellow ones are all Dave's. All pink ones are all Sarah's, and all blue ones are Paul's, for example. So you can have that kind of a flexibility and then simplicity that can be inbuilt into the way you're tracking the work.